So we're going to construct the dovetail slide, the orthographic projection. So the first thing we need to do is to find, before we even get to our drawing, is to find our overall width and height. So this is going to be my overall height and my overall width. Right? Our drawing goes in between this because so if we had our drawing, we would have had let's see, something like this. Right? And let's say this is our mitre line. So it's made up of our height, our width for our overall width. So we have our width, we have our space, and we have our depth. Okay, and that's what I'm going to have here. Then we have our height, which is made up of our height, the space, and our depth. So I have the calculations here of, so overall width is going to be 4 1/4 plus 1 1/4 space plus the depth of 2 5/16, which if we add it up is going to give us 8 1/16. Right? And then we have our overall height. So this is our overall. And then we have our overall height, 2 1/4 plus 1 1/4 space plus 2 5/16, which will give us 5 3/16. We divide these each by 2, and we'll have 4 1 over 32 for our half of our width, and 2 29 over 32 for half of our height. Okay, so that's what we're doing first. Now I'm going to go into this and I'm going to construct my guides, my horizontal guides. But first I need to find the X on my page. So X, we know we are doing it based off of the drawing area, not the border line. So I'm going from border to the top of my title block, and then border to the top of my title block on the right. Place my rulers next to each other. Once I have that, I'm going to draw my first line. And then I'm going to do it on the opposite side to get the other X. Remember, we're not drawing it straight across the page. We're just placing the rulers to get the outline of where that should be. And that is my center. I'm going to erase the rest of my X that I don't need. And then I can go into placing my horizontal and vertical guides. So I'm going to use the step that I've shown y'all a few times where I'm using my ruler to do my horizontal line, my triangle or my ruler. I'm going to hold it down and I'm going to line it up to where my X is happening, and I'm going to draw a guide. Right, I'm going to do it on the opposite side as well, below for my vertical guide. And I'm going to use the top of my title block for this. Now we always have a margin of error because we're not using our tools itself and because we are not using a computer for this, a program. So we've drawn our guides, horizontal and vertical. And based off of the measurements I had before, right, so for my horizontal guide, I'm going to go across 4 and 1 over 32. Now, if your ruler does not have the 1 over 32 inch option, right, we can go between a 1/16 of an inch, right? So if we estimate it to be about halfway, so that's what I'm doing. So I'm starting it at 0 and make my guide. It is 4 and 1 over 32. And then my overall length is going to be 8 and 1/16. I'm going to do it here again. So these are all my my horizontal dimensions. So 4 and 1 over 32, 8 and 1/16. I'm going to create my guide here. And I'm going to just draw the line first, because I can always measure it out, but I'm going to draw the line first. Remember, the further back you hold your pencil, the lighter your line is going to be, because it is less pressure you're putting on the lead or on the pencil. Right, so we have all of our vertical lines. Now I'm going to make a guide to get an idea of the distance for it on each one of them. Again, my half distance is 2 and 29 over 32, and our overall is going to be 13 over 16. So because I have this, I'm going to go my 29 over 32 on the end. So I'm counting from here, 1, 2, and then 29 over 16th, and then on this side I'm actually going to bring it down so I can get an idea of where it falls. It's going to fall midway between one of my units, right? And then my overall is going to be 5 and 13/16. So 5 and 13/16, which is here, right? So 3, 1, and middle of 1. I'm going to actually use that for the next one. So a guide here, and then 13/16. All right, so I'm going to enclose this. Okay, something is off. All right, so my measurement is 1/4 of an inch off, right? So that's why you always double check and make sure that everything is lining up to what you want it to be. Right, so I'm going to do my line to enclose, and I'm also going to enclose the top as well. So once we've done that, we found our middle placement for our page. So this is where the overall drawing is going to go. Now I'm going to erase my vertical and my horizontal line because I'm not going to need them. And the reason I'm not going to need them is because we're doing an orthographic projection. So unless my drawing is using the height of the horizontal line or the width of the vertical line, then it is not needed. So once we do that, I'm going to go in now with, so my width is going to be 4.5. And then I'm going to show you a trick with how we can test and make sure that we have the right lineup. Because we are not using a T-square to help us maintain our horizontal line, we're going to have a slight discrepancy, if that's the right word, or an inaccuracy with our drawing. So we want to make sure that that's not the case. So I'm going to do my width of my front view, and because my top view shares the same width, I am going to extend it all the way. And I'm also going to do my height. My height is 2.25, so I'm going to measure out 2.25. And I'm going to put it on my guides. So I can go all the way to the end here actually, because I'm going straight across. And I'm going to go in lightly. Okay, so we have the overall height and width of my front view. Now I'm going to use my miter line. So that's my 45-degree triangle. And I'm going to line it up with my, I should line it up with the base of, I can line it up with my title block, or I can line it up with the base. Because remember, our miter line starts at the top right corner of our front view. So I'm lining this up, and I'm going to go in here, line it up with my guide that I have there, and then I'm going to then draw a guide. If it doesn't quite go, then we can let go and continue. So now we see here that my height and my width does not quite line up with it. So all that does is give us, and I'm going to do it with my title block as well. Let's see if there is a marginal error happening on it. Nope, it lines up with our guide. Same thing again. Okay, so it doesn't quite line up. So all we need to do is we're going to extend it, the height, and then we'll go across the width. Okay, so I'm going to just erase this line for a minute. And it's not that the calculations are wrong, it's just that based off of how we placed it on the paper, there is a marginal error happening. So I'm going to extend this all the way up till it touches the miter line. And I'm going to make it easy. I'm going to mark it off. So instead of measuring, I'm going to make a mark here at the height of my line. I'm going to make a mark at the miter line where it crosses. I just want to make sure it's correct. All right. Then I'm going to go over here, and that's the same marking I'm going to put down. All right, so this here is going to be our guide. And then I'm going to construct the line straight across. So where it touches my miter line and to my guide, I'm going to draw a line straight across. And that's how we correct that discrepancy. So now I'm going to finish constructing the placement for my views. So I'm going to put, I can go 1.25 of space, or I can go 2 5/16 either way. All right, so I'm going to 1.25 of space, and I'm also going to just double check it and make sure it is, yep, so it is our 2 5/16. I'm going to mark it off here as well. So 1 1/4, and we know it gives us our 2 5/16. Then I'm going to carry it up until it meets my miter line. Right? And then we're going to do the same thing again. So we know our depth is 2 5/16, or we can go 1 1/4 this way as well. So I'm going to check it again. So 1 1/4. Right, that's our guide. And if we look at it here, yep, we got 2 5/16. Isn't that cool? All right, now I'm going to connect them from my miter line. So we have the placement of our drawings using the miter line. I'm going to go into the construction of it. So on my front view, I have this particular portion here, and I have this face as well. So the height of this feature is 1 inch. So I'm going to create that on the overall, on the width of my front, and then we'll go into this construction. So this is 1, and this is 1/2 inch. So we have to do this line and this line. I don't know how long this line is. This is what our angles are going to tell us. But the base of our legs is 1 inch. So that's what we're going to place down. So 1 inch in height. And I'm going to carry it across. I know the height of this is going to be defined, right, our 1 inch. You can define at the end of everything, but I'm going to define as I go along just to make the construction of this a little faster. All right, so our legs are going to be 1 inch on both sides. We also have 1/2 inch happening across here. So we're going to measure out 1/2 inch, and I'm going to put it down as a construction line because I don't know where it is going to stop. Our angle is what's going to tell us where it stops. All right. I'm going to go in with my 60-degree triangle. Our angle tells us that the 60 degrees starts from here, go up. So it's going to be 60 degrees from that point. Right? It should not be a very sharp angle because then it's going to be 30 degrees that you're using. I'm going to go again, and I'm going to use my title block as where I can place my triangle. And then I'm going to pull it across until I get to the end of my line. And I'm going to put down a construction line. Once I like what I see, I'm going to define that edge. I'll flip my ruler. Do the same thing again. Once I have my edge, I'm going to put down a construction line. Once I like what I see, I'm going to go down with an object line. Now I can define this particular feature. We're going to look at the top of this. Now it's telling us we need to create an angle. The angle is 45 degrees. The angle starts 3/4 of an inch from the ends. It's on both sides. So I'm going to measure off 3/4 of an inch. Okay, and then I'm going to do the same thing again that we did before, but instead of using my 45-degree triangle, I'm using my 60-degree, and my 45 is what I'm going to use to draw my angle. I'm going to line it up, slide it across. Again, if you do not have that option, you can use a ruler or you can line it up with your title block. So you can line up the 45-degree with the title block. So I'm going to create a construction line again, right? And then I'm going to define once I like what I see. Okay, and I can then draw my feature and connect it to the end. So it should be consistent lines, right? My object lines should look the same weight all around. So this is my front view. Then I'm going to go to my right side view. Now if we look at our shape, the foundation of my shape is an L, right? So if we had to construct this as an isometric, it would have been an L. So that's what the shape of the right side view should be. Now we have the height of this feature already, which we've already projected across. So we're looking at the depth. The depth, is 5/8, and right, because it comes over to our right side view. So a depth is 5/8. So I'm going to put down 5/8 here. Right, this is 4/8. So we have 5. And I'm also going to do another one because I want to project it onto my miter line. So again, I'm going to draw a construction line connecting my two guides. Right? Once I've connected it, I can then define my edges. So this is our right side view. And now we're going to go to our top view. So because my 5/8 already goes this way, I'm going to know that the 5/8 is going to be. So I'm going to measure out 5/8 from here. 5/8 from here. And I'm going to use that guide to then project to my connecting miter line there. And I'm going to use my triangle because it's a little sturdier for me. Right, so I have that guide. If we look at our drawing, we have this component with our incline, and we also have this component. So I can define what I have so far because it's really going to be rectangles. So I'm going to define this. This is giving us and you guys should have an idea of what this looks like based off of your numerous practice sessions with orthographic projections. If you're getting any dirty marks on your page, it means that one, your tools probably needs to get cleaned or wiped. And you can also raise your tools off the page as you're drawing, so you're not dragging it across, because the graphite from your pencil is getting dragged across the page as well. Okay, so we have this so far. I'm also going to look at, we have the 3/4 of an inch that was happening here. This is a visible feature. It's also going to be available on that side. So I'm going to measure out 3/4 of an inch on both sides and then extend my projection line. So from here, I'm going to extend my projection line, right? So we're showing where it's coming from or where we're projecting it from. Okay. Then we have a circle that's happening on our drawing. So we're not going to assume that the circle is falling center of this surface. Our horizontal center line is 7/8 from the end, and our vertical center line is 2 1/4 from the right. So that's what we're going to measure out. So 7/8 from the top of it here. So from the base, we're going to go 7/8, which is here. And I'm also going to make a mark here for it as well. That's our distance. And I'll draw a horizontal guide for that. And then we have 2 1/4 for this one. So it's 1/4 of an inch, 1, 2. Quarter of an inch, 1, 2. All right, so we have our vertical and our horizontal guides for our circle. The hole in the circle is going to be 15/16 drill. So that's another name for diameter. All right, so which means we need to find half of that. And it's going to be 15/32. So again, we're going to use our 32-inch units. If you are using your architect scale, it's going to have the 32-inch units on it. But again, we're going to use this. So I'm going to measure out 15/32 on one side, and then the rest of my 15/16 on the other. I'm sorry if my head is popping into the video, guys. So it can be on the vertical, it can be on the horizontal. just once you have two of them. So we're going to use our compass and we're going to line it up with the center of our circle. I'm going to make it wide enough that I think it's going to touch the guide and make a little nudge on both sides to make sure that that's where it's supposed to be. Okay, so I like what I'm seeing. I'm going to use my finger to control where the needle stays. Now, you can do it an arc at a time. Okay, arc at a time. That way you can put down initially what you want. The faster you go, the needle is going to jump out of the paper. Okay, another trick you can use is if you use multiple sheets or another sheet, you can fold it in half and put it underneath the hole for your compass. It's going to help give the needle structure to hold on to. So we have our circle. I'm going to go in, since I'm here, I'm going to go in with my center lines. The center line, we're going to maintain our 1/8 and 1/16 space, and I'm going to extend it 1/4 of an inch past the tangent point. So 1/8, 1/16 on both sides, and then extend to the tangent and then 1/4 of an inch. I'll do it again on the opposite side. Extend to the tangent, 1/4 of an inch. So that's what our center line should look like at the start. I'll do it on the opposite side or on our vertical. So again, 1/8, extend to my tangent, 1/4 of an inch, extend to my tangent, 1/4 of an inch. We don't want our center line to touch the object line. We always try to leave a 1/16 of a space if that happens. Right, I'm just going to erase this so it doesn't look like it is a center line that is extended. All right, so we have all of our visible features on our drawing. Now we're going to go into the hidden features. All right, so first things first, this hole or this drill is going to be hidden on our front view. All right, because it's passing this line 1, if it's passing that to be projected, it is hidden. So our first thing we're going to do is we're going to project our center line. And because again we have no t-square, we're going to project that first so then we can get an idea of where it falls. So projected my center line. I'm going to draw my center line as I'm here. So my center line is going to be long lines, short lines. I'm going to start with my short line. It's going to be the center of it. So 1/8. Then I'm going to extend past the object line, 1/4 of an inch. Right? 1/16 space past the object line, 1/4 of an inch. So that's what our center line should look like. Now we know on both sides it's 1532. So I'm going to go in 1532. On both sides for our radius. So I'll put a guide here, 15/16. And then I'm going to connect these two to show where I have projected this from. So I'll pull a construction line down and I can go in with my hidden lines. And my hidden lines are made up of 1/8 in length short lines. So 1/8, 1/16 space, 1/8, 1/16 space, 1/8, 1/16 space. Right, I'm just taking off the construction line so you can see it a little better. And we'll do it again over here. So I'm going to connect my tangent point and where the tangent point is represented in my drawing. So again, I will project my construction line or projection line, and we'll go in 1/8, 1/8, 1/8. So that's our hidden line on the front view. We'll do it again on this side. So the center line, we can project it straight across the miter line. And we know the distance for this is 7/8. So I'm going to create 7/8 guide at the bottom here. Right, so it falls here. And I'm going to connect this, and this is where our center line is going to fall. Okay, now we can't draw the center line just yet because we have no idea where it's going to be in this drawing. It's not the full depth because remember the height of our hole is only 1/2 inch. So I'm going to bring this across to project the height, and then we can go in with our hidden lines. Okay, so project this across, and I'm going to go in with my hidden lines. So start at the object line, 1/8 of an inch, 1/8 of an inch, and continue that pattern until we are at the end. So we have our hidden line. We can now go in with our center line. I'm going to start 1/8 of an inch in the center, and then I'm going to come out, extend 1/4 of an inch. I'll do it on the opposite side. Reach the object line, extend 1/4 of an inch. So that's our center line. Going to extend this as well. Okay, so I know that my diameter is 15/16 and this is 15/16 on both sides. So I'm just going to measure out 15/16, 15/32 on both sides for my radius for my guide. Now I can project it, but I mean, I'll project it just so you can see. All right, so I'm just measuring out 15/16 here, and I'm going to measure out 15/16 here, and this is just for the projection. I'll connect these to the guide so that it goes to my miter line. And then I can come down from here to my guide. Right, and we see that that lines up. So I'm going to go in with my hidden line. So 1/8 of an inch from the object line, 1/8 of an inch, 1/8 of an inch. Do the other side. Eighth of an inch, 1/8 of an inch, 1/8 of an inch. If your hidden line ends up being shorter, let's say we went 1/8 of an inch and it goes to the end here and it's not 1/8 of an inch, then you can stop it at whatever it stops at. All right, so it might stop at 1/16 of an inch. That's fine. Okay, but once we start at our object line and we go, it can end up being stopping 1/16 of an inch just before in space the object line, and that's fine. All right, our last features that I'm going to add is we have a hidden detail. We cannot see this edge and we cannot see the legs on the top view. So I know that this feature is 1 inch, so I'm going to extend that 1 inch. I'll just mark off my guide. All right, so just a 1 inch distance guide. That's what I'm marking off on both sides. And I'm going to project my edge up to my top view. Once I get to my top view, I'm going to start constructing my hidden line. All right, so I can go here and I can go straight across. All right, so I'm going to start. You can start down and go up. It all depends. So I'll start down as I am here. So 1/8 of an inch going straight across. Try to keep your lines uniform as much as possible. All right, so we have that. I'll do it on the other side as well. Oops, you know what? I actually did not finish this. That's why it's looking weird. So we got to continue. All right, so wait, something is off. I'm trying to line it up. 8, 8, 8. Okay. Yeah, my 1/8 of an inch are a little off. Okay, now I'm back on track. All right, I'm just going to erase this for a minute because I'm losing track of where my 1/8 of an inch are going. All right, so we're going 1/8 of an inch going straight across, and then we're going to end 1/16 because that's where it ends. If I started it here, I'm going to end it the same way on the other side, right? So that way it's consistent on both sides. So I line it up again with my base. I'm going to draw my construction line to project it. I'm going to start. So 1/8, 1/8, so that's our hidden lines. And now we have the last one, which is here. Now I don't know the distance for it. It's not going to line up with my incline. Okay, so it is about 1/16 1/32 of an inch less. And I can make it simpler by making a guide. All right, so if we make a guide here and make a guide here, sorry, I'm like measuring the wrong thing. All right, so we have here and here. I can go here and make that specific measurement. All right, do the same thing on the other side. It is the same, so we're going to do it on the other side as well. I'll connect my points for my projection line. And I'm going to go in with my hidden lines. Oh, I can't because I'm not using the right ruler. So I'll just make my projection lines first. I have double lines happening there. I don't want double lines. So let's make that again. And then I'm going to go in with my hidden line. Right, so y'all should have seen this. So 1/8 of an inch, hidden lines again. And we'll do it on this side as well. And that's our hidden line. Last thing we're going to do is we're going to add our labels. Our label consists of front view, the letters, which is 1/8 of an inch in height, and it also starts 1/8 of an inch from the drawing. I put down my guides because I need to get an idea of where it's falling. I'm not estimating it. All right, I'm also going to extend it over here as well because I already have my ruler in place for my 1/8 in height. Then I'll do the same thing at the top. We also have one more feature, and that is the visible edge that we have from the front view that we need to bring across here as well. And I hope that some of you all saw it before we were done. All right, I'm just going to make sure that when drawing a 45-degree angle, because the distance this way is 3/4 of an inch, it's also going to be this way as well. So I'm making sure it's 3/4 of an inch, and I'm just going to carry a line across from that particular feature. All right, we're going to bring it across until it gets here, and then we're going to... All right, guys, we have reached the completion of our dovetail slide. I hope that helps.